This conference will now be recorded.
What we have discussed yesterday, what are the concepts we have discussed yesterday? So we started yesterday the security, right? Security concepts.
Yeah, CIA.
Yeah. So what do you mean by the confidentiality, integrity, and availability?
Only the authorized people can able to access the data. Unauthorized people should not be allowed. Like
Encryption will be happening in the conference.
Mhm. What is the integrity?
loss of data. Loss of data should not be there.
Okay. So what do you mean by that?
Hashing, type of hashing we can able to maintain the integrity.
Mhm.
To
So how
hash
do we?
value.
Yeah.
To hash
How do
value
we?
will be maintaining integrity, unique value.
How do we? Hashing is a mechanism. So with the help of hashing, so that nobody can tamper your data. Yeah. What is the availability?
Availability of application
Availability
should be
of
there.
24/7 availability of application through backup redundancy of the service.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So as a security guy, so what? How do you secure your network? So can you explain with any example? Any one example by correlating both confidentiality, integrity, and
We can take Amazon as an example.
Mhm. Okay.
Like in order to log in Amazon, our credential should be within us. It should not be accessed by any other people. Since because Amazon consists of Amazon Prime and like funds, all those things Amazon used to maintain.
Okay.
And like availability, it is like if there is any sort of like lack in the website, then people will be distracted to any other website. Like uh, in during Big Billion Days, it used to happen. Like they move to Flipkart. If
Mhm.
they can't able to access this,
Mhm.
and the integrity is like if the product cost is like if it should be maintained. If we see the product cost like today is 100, like tomorrow also it should be like same. It should not be changed according less to high.
Okay. No, that's not integrity. So integrity means something. Somebody has modifying the actual data. That will be so you're missing your actual data. Let's say uh, your server have some usernames, passwords, files, or important sensitive files, all are there. So you're going and you're modifying the data. So modification of data in the sense, so there is a you're losing your customer information. You're losing your customer information instead of actually you're using some other information. So when the let's say if it is a bank, so you have your credit card, debit card information. That credit card, debit card, your credit card, debit card information. Instead of that, some others credit card information on there, or your transactions. You're doing all the transactions, okay, but you're seeing some other wrong info, not your transactions. You'll be seeing. Like you transferred a 1 lakh and there it is showing at 10 lakhs. So that's tampering, that's changing of modification of data causes a lot of lot of problems. So it depends on the place where it happens. If it is a banking sector, if they are doing some other things, some data changes, so that could be impact to that users. If it is health related organizations, hospitals and all, so that would be like they have some cancer disease. Instead of that, so they will modify it to some other disease. So yeah, that could be kind of dangerous thing. Okay, so that's why you have to. So we have to. I mean, as a security guy, you should not allow, or you should secure your organization from these kinds of from these kinds of harmful people. Okay. Um, so that's the main security guys. The responsibility is make sure to protect their network. So what is their intention? So they have to protect the CIA confidentiality. They have to maintain and integrity. At the same time, it should be available. It should be available to 24/7 to everybody who is accessing your service. That's a CI. And what we have discussed, next one, malware. So this is the biggest threat for any of the organization, right? So malware is the biggest threat for this is the main threat for CIA or any of the organization. So what is the malware?
Malicious code.
Mhm. Okay. So it's a script. It's a malicious. It's a simple script which is intended to do some harmful activity to the computer. That's a simple script which is written. So everything is written, even our operating system files and everything will be written in a code. So you're designing the malware is a code. Malware is also a code which is which will damage your system, which will damage your system files. System files in the sense which are written in a code. So a simple script, what the attacker will do, he will write a script. He will write a script with that script. Intention of that script is to completely either take over the system on his control or to damage the system. So that is the malware. So anybody ask, malware is a simple script which is used to do some harmful to the computer. So that is a malware. So we have classes of malware depends on the functionality. So one malware. So we have a different malwares. Each malware so have a set of functions. So one malware will come and will monitor your activities, but it doesn't do any harmful activity. It doesn't do any harmful activity to your computer, but it sits in your system and it watching you what you're doing. and then that information will be, let's say you're logging into one of the banking, you're supporting for one of the banking support. Okay. So you're logging into the banking web servers, banking websites via remote desktop connection. So that specific malware is simply sitting in your system and keep watching, and what you are typing, what username, what password you are giving, everything it is monitored. Okay, that is the one type of malware. Another type of malware which is designed to uh, steal the information. So what kind of information? There will be a couple of customer information is there. So it simply steals that kind of information. Some of the malwares, they will occupy the complete system bandwidth, system utilization. So your system having like a 8 GB of RAM. So what this worm will do, it will completely occupy your RAM. And also when you're trying to communicate any other guy, so the network utilization also will go. Like if you see, if I'm correct here in my LAN, so I have a different computer side, my VLAN, my local network. What happened is this worm, so this has some 1 Mbps bandwidth. What example? So what it will do? This worm will communicating to these systems, continuously trying to communicate, and occupies the more bandwidth. Occupies more bandwidth, and the genuine operations, like I am sending some file to this guy, so I am not able to send. I mean, I'll be sending, but it will take a more time to reach this guy. When I'm sending from here to here, he will be receiving very slowly. The response time is very high. It is the file or whatever it is it takes more time. So this is how it impacts the business operations. So that is a kind of malware. It impacts the business operations. Okay, another kind of malware is something like destruction. It performs a destruction, complete files destruction. So it removes the complete files, the operating system files, and then the system will never restart again. The complete operating system files will corrupt when you, and the system will automatically shut down, and then when you try to restart, so there is no operating system. There is a couple of important operating systems will be correct, files will be corrupted, so that you cannot start your computer back again. So another kind of computer will be, another kind of malware will be, so it encrypts the complete files in the systems and it asks the money. So that is another kind of malware. So we'll see different kinds of malwares and their functionality one by one. The first one is virus. So you guys are hearing this word virus, virus, virus. Okay. What happens? What is this virus? So this is also a simple script. What it will do is there will be a couple of executable files. Okay. Let's say I have a Microsoft Word or VLC player. This virus will attach to this VLC player. This is example a VLC some .exe file, right? When you try to install the VLC player, every time this .exe file will be executed, right? So or any other, even Word file also. So when you try to install the, when you try to open a Word file, so in the background, so automatically the .exe file will start running, and along with this, the virus also will be added to this .exe file, it will also start executing the file. That's how the virus will be executed on your system every time. Whenever the guy was opening the .exe VLC player or Microsoft Word or whatever the file which is attached by the virus. So every time it executes when the VLC player or other player which is infected with the virus, it is also started executing. Okay, so that's a virus. So virus is a self-replicate. So it's not exactly the self-replicated. It will be replicating the computer. It will be going to the computers in many places. So once it is executed, again one more dropper will be created and it will be placed into the another place. It creates another place. It goes to another place in the computer. Like that, it will go to the many places in the computer. It will spread. It will spread to many places in the computer. C drive, D drive, and different places in the operating system. C drive. So it goes to the many places in the C drive. Whenever you try to delete in one place, but still it is there in the another place. Like that, it will be keep on replicating to the multiple places. Okay. So that's how the virus will completely spreading into your network. So the intention of virus will be the virus will be doing a modification of files. It is doing the modification of files in your system. Let's say you have some files. Okay, so what it will do? It will modify that file. The example, there was a couple of sensitive information, users information. So there it will go and it will modify. Okay, we'll see one by one. So what each malware, virus, phone, Trojan, what it will do. So like stealing or destroying, we'll see the differences. Now we'll see how does the worm virus form Trojan functionalities and what it will do. So worm is not like a virus. It will not execute if some file is executed, like a VLC player is executed, then the virus attached file also will be executed. But worm is not like that. So worm is a self-replicate. So it is a let's say the first it will create here itself 1,000 times the same. Once a worms from, let's say you're accessing some malicious site, some other unwanted or unknown sites which are not a trusted site. Let's say instead of Google, you're trying to access some sites, so some unknown sites. It's not a popular sites. Okay, so somewhere you saw the site and you know that it is having some information. When you try to access that, so that file, that website having some malicious files, but you don't know that it is downloaded. So it automatically will visit the site. So it automatically downloads into your system and started without your knowledge. It started executing. So worm is the one which keeps self-replicating. So it doesn't depend on any of the executable file or anything. It keeps self-replicating to many places in the computer, and then what it will do, let's say this is the computer one. Okay, so in the computer one it is already generated a lot of worm files, and then it will spreading to another computer. So it is spreading to another computers via LAN cable. So via LAN cable it is going, because So let's say I'm my office or my office having a 10 systems. So all my 10 systems are connected into the same local area network, right? So every system, every system, every file that is generated here, again it will be moving to other systems, okay, via local area network. So it is keep spreading. So what happens? So when it is moving to another system, it occupies the complete bandwidth. So only worms will occupy a more bandwidth. So what happened here after generating a lot of worm files, self-replication because of self-replication. So here the system went down. The system performance is very slow. At the same time, network utilization also very high. So that is a worm. So that is what the worm will do. The next one is Trojan horse. So the Trojan horse is like, let's say, if I wanted to download some application like VLC. In this example, it's a VLC. So you have to go to the trusted website, VLC media players. So who is giving the VLC media player? Who is authorized person, like who is the authorized company. So in that website you have to go, or any you have to go there and you have to install from there itself. Instead of that, you have downloaded from somewhere some unwanted sources, so which maybe contains the, instead of VLC player, it looks like a VLC player, but it actually the Trojan file. If you are not downloading from a trusted sources, so it is having the, so when you're going unwanted or it is not authorized places, and somewhere you download it from the Trojan horse, you just search the Trojan horse download, and then you go to the you see somewhere, and then it looks like a Trojan VLC media player, but when you install and when you download and when you install, okay, automatically what happens, the Trojan file will be there in that. So you have to identify the which one is this an authorized file or not. So when you, what we have to do is you have to check it out. So the hash with the hash value, or you have to take that file and then check in like tools like the virus total. So the virus total gives you this is the authorized file or not. So this is how you have to identify, you have to differentiate. So and make sure when you are visiting them, when you are downloading the file, you have to know, you have to download it from the authorized places. If you download from unauthorized places, the Trojan file will download, and it looks like the VLC player only, but does not a VLC player. So it started doing its operations. So that is the, if you see the difference, virus is the one. So it attached to the virus is a code which is attached to the another trusted or authorized software. Next example, Microsoft Word or VLC. That VLC will be added to the malicious code, will be the malware, the script malicious code is added to the genuine file. So that's a virus. Worm is not like that. It doesn't add or attach. It is once it comes into your systems, then self-replicating and generates thousands of these worms, and then spreading all over the network and causes slowness. So that's how the worm functionality, and the Trojan will be something like Trojan file is looks like actual original file, but it's not a original. Then we'll show you in the future in the next upcoming classes. So how do we differentiate the actual file and malicious files? So there was the file MS Word, Microsoft Word, but that's not a which contains a couple of malware files or something. So we will see that how how we can identify the actual original exe files and malware infected. It looks like it's an actual one, but it is a malicious file. So that we will upload a couple of samples in the virus total, and then we'll see how we can see that differentiate. We can see the difference. So we have a complete information there itself. If you upload the sample, if you upload the file, malicious file, you can get the information like, let's say I have uploaded the VLC player exe file in that virus total. So what happens? It gives whether it is a virus total, sorry, VLC player or not. So it gives the complete information who is the who written this code, who is authorized this, all the stuff you can see. Okay, so you should have the VLC player should have the proper valid signatures. That we will see in the later classes. See the difference here. The computer, it's a virus is a program that connects itself to another legitimate program. As I said, so it connects to another legitimate program. Which what is that legitimate program? It may be a VLC player, Word, or whatever it is. It connects to it and cause harm to the computers or computer system or network. So it needs the resources of a system to bring it down rather than performing a destructive action. So it doesn't do any harmful to the computer. So instead of that, it occupies the more resources of system. So what resources it occupies? It's a bandwidth, CPU utilizations, everything. So your system becomes slow, and automatically once your system is becomes slow and your network becomes slow, your production will be your operations, your business, the computer, I mean, clients or your network business will automatically slow, and it impacts the operations. So if you're able to do one work in an hour and your network and your system is completely slow, it takes a 3 hours time to do. And apart from, so with a slow net, with a your system is slow, network is slow, and you feel that it is a more uncomfortable for you. And so whatever the work task you wanted to complete, that takes so much time that impacts the business operations, and at the same time they cannot give the client on time what they are requesting, right? So this is how the worm impacts the business operations. The Trojan itself permits an intruder to obtain some confidential information about the computer network. So Trojan horse is an actual, it looks like a legitimate program, but it is not a legitimate program. So what is it? What it will do? It will obtain some confidential information about a computer network. So execution depends on a transfer of file. Let's say how does it execute? So a specific virus or virus file will execute actual once a legitimate program execute. Every time it executes once a legitimate program executes. So so after executing, what happens? It creates another file. It creates another file, right? And here is a replication itself without any. So here the replication is happening once it executes the legitimate program. So here the replication is happened without any human action, without any execution. So once it comes, it started replicating itself, but it is not like this. The virus is not like that. So you have to execute this file, legitimate program, whatever it is attached. Let's say your virus is attached with some paint application. So whenever you open the paint, so automatically the virus will be executed. So the Trojan horse is, so it is also downloaded as a software. So it looks, it's downloaded as a software. What do you mean by that? So it is coming as a actual original software. Okay, like VLC media player. Replication occurs, yes, replication occurs here. When replication occurs? When legitimate program execute, the replication occurs. Here also replication occurs, but there is no human action is required. Okay, Trojan horse, there is no self-replication. So it come as a software, trusted. It come as a trusted software, and then it executes, steals the income credentials. So that's how the Trojan horse works. There is no self-replication mechanism here, and remotely controlled. So virus is not controlled by anybody else. So virus will not be controlled by, once it is comes, it will be, it will not controlled by anybody. Worm will be controlled by the attacker. So once he downloaded, once a worm enters, he can have a full control of the system. He can take a complete. There is a highly chances that he will be, because worm, yeah, worm will be mostly used for bandwidth depletion, but doesn't use as a remotely remote connections, taking the remote connection of the system. So that we have a different, we have a Trojan horse. The Trojan horse is the one which mainly used for that reason. So Trojan horse and rootkits are also there. So these two are, rootkits is the mainly used for remotely access the system. We'll discuss that one as well. Okay. Rate of spreading is moderate. This is a highly replicated. Okay. So it doesn't do any replications. It is actually should be a no, because it doesn't go any self replication. Infection initiated by attaching a virus to an executable file. It lies a system or application weakness. So how does, there was some weakness in the system, so that it applies attach itself to a program and interrupt as a stop. Any question, any doubt here? Attach itself as a program, interpret as a usual software. So the same meaning. Everything is explained again and again the same. So you have to remember one thing. So virus, simple code attached to executable, any of the executable. Worm, it comes from the internet, self-replicated, no dependency of any other executable. Trojan, it looks like actual software, trusted software, or authorized software, or genuine software. Okay, so that is the virus form Trojan. Next, what you have to remember, so what it will do, what is the functionality? So it causes a harmful to the, it causes your system, like stealing, the virus will be, what the virus will do, virus will, it's also the same functionality. It's what it performs a destructive operations, operations. So worm will be network, highly utilizing the network and system resources. Trojan, functionality is stealing the information, and it also act as a backdoor. So backdoor, you know what do you mean by the backdoor? It creates another entry point. Let's say if you're home having a main door and back door, So so backdoor is a purpose for using some other purpose. Uh, so back entry backdoor is sometimes when you're when you're doing something bad, or you wanted to escape from your parents, or you don't want to see your father or mother to see you, so that's why you're coming from the back with the back door, and then you're entering into your home, so without knowing your father and mother. So they think that you are in the inside, and but you are not actually there in inside, so you went outside and you are coming back with a back door. So that's a back entry, that's a back door. So in terms of here security, what the attacker will do is, so if he comes as a straight like action route, so it will be fought by security controls. So we have a different security controllers. Okay, so they will catch the attacker. That security controllers will catch the attacker. So that's the reason he will create a backdoor entry. He will create backdoor entry. Who will do that? The Trojan horse is the one. Once it comes into your system, it creates a backdoor entry, and then so there is a connection has been with the help of this backdoor, the attacker can control the system. So that is a virus worm Trojan. So we have a different another. We have a different another uh, uh, malwares we have. That's a root for that. That one is a rootkit. So rootkit also act as a it is also act as a backdoor. So what it will do? It will creates a remote desktop connection. So remote desktop connection, once it is installed, so remote RDP, you are aware of this. So remote desktop connections. So if I wanted to connect my customer, so I will use this MS TSC, and I will connect to my customer website. Got it? So with the help of this, I will connect to my customer. So what it will do, it is also create it with the help of what that rootkit will do. It establishes a remote desktop connection to action machine. So the attacker is there. So with this root could establish the remote desktop connection to attack. So once it has remote desktop, so the remote desktop connection has been established with the attacker. So what he will do, he will connect my system and he will do the changes. But or whatever you're doing, that changes, it will not be visible to the actual users. So let's say I am using my system. So my system or some other, let's say some other guy is using a system. Okay, actual user. So that user is installed the rootkit. That user have the rootkit in his system. So the rootkit in the background, it initiate a RDP connection to attacker server. So the attacker will control his. So once he got the system remote desktop connection, the attacker will control. The attacker will take over the system, and it's like he have a complete control of your system. That is the rootkit. And another one is, we have another one called as spyware. So the spyware is the one which is, so the name itself is clearly telling this. Spyware is the one which is sitting in your system and then doing a spying in the sense, so what usernames, what passwords you are entering. So everything it will be recorded. It will record the your screen itself. Let's say I'm entering here, I'm doing some operations here, or all these things. It will record the screen. my screening. Now how I am recording my screen, the same way, the spyware also will monitor and record my complete system activities. Okay. Another one, keyloggers. So the keyloggers is basically what it will do. The same like a spyware. Spyware will monitor and record your sessions, right? The same way, keylogger will record your keystrokes. Let's say I'm typing something in my, let's say here in the notepad, I'm typing something in the keyboard. In the keyboard, I'm typing something. So that keystrokes, every keystroke what I'm typing will be recorded in a one, will be recorded and create a one log file. So that log file will be sending to. So any questions here? Virus, worm, Trojan? Rootkits, spyware, keyloggers. We have many more. We have bots. We have a bots. We have a ransomware. So like that, we have a different malwares. We have. So make sure you just remember these three: virus, worm, Trojan. So these are the very important in terms of for security, sorry, for interview purpose. So they will mostly they'll ask is what is the virus, what is the worm, what is the Trojan, and the differences between the virus, worm, Trojan. Okay, so why it is differentiate? What are the differences? You can see mostly from what are the major differences between virus, worm, Trojan, and how it comes into your system and how it is gonna impact your system. So that you have to tell. And rootkits, these are just have a knowledge on it. Rootkits or keyloggers, spyware. Ransomware we'll discuss in a separate class. That's a big concept. We'll discuss in the later part. So we'll discuss the entry and so how does the ransomware comes into your system, so what it will do and how it helps you, everything we'll discuss. So did we discuss what is the vulnerability threat risk yesterday class?
No.
5, 6, 7.
Oh. So any questions? Virus, worm, Trojan?
Okay.
In WAM, you said it is like a remotely controllable, right? It means
That's right,
like
yeah.
we can able to
This is the ideology.
able to control it.
Contact is having 3.
Sorry? Like some other is asking something. See, worm is a self-replicated, but it is also sent remotely accessed. But the major application, majorly it is using for only to occupy the network resources. We have another kind of malwares which are specifically designed to remotely connect. So that one example is rootkits. So rootkits are the one which you can access your remote desktop. It creates a remote desktop connection, right? So what do you mean by the remote desktop? So now if I want to connect here, so I'm using MSTSC and then I'm connecting. This is the remote desktop. I can connect here. What the rootkit will do automatically in the backend. It will create a it establishes a connection to attacker server. Let's say attacker server is something like 100.0.0.1. Okay. So whatever it creates, just connect to it will connect to the attacker server. So once the connection has been established, the attacker will take the full control of the system. So the attacker will have a complete complete visibility of the system. Got it? But worm is control. Worm is also can be it's purely it's not for it's you're using for the network relation. Somebody designed for worm so the worm mainly using for utilization. Your system utilization has to go high. But here there is no human. Once it comes means so automatically it will do the destruction. So what kind of destruction? Network replacement destruction. Network complete occupying the network replacement. The system replaces. Apart from it, don't do any changes in the system or corruption of the files or stealing the information or nothing. It is like it's like a virus. It means what kind of this whatever we were seeing right now, the corona, how the corona will be infecting from one to other. So it's a self-replicating. It will be infecting to it will be infecting one person to other person by the touching of one person or some other whether he was doing something like uh, by cases of not fever, like a cold or something cases. So that cold or something cases that the file the corona the virus will come out and then going to the other system body and then it will self-replicate replicated in the body in many places. Replicate one virus or one virus will go to the human body and it replicates. Yeah, it will replicates without any self-replication. It will continuously replicated in the whole human body and then damage the. I mean, damage in the sense it will kill the guy, kill the person. The same way here also. Warm water will do completely occupation bandwidth, complete bandwidth utilization. So it impacts the business operations. So there is, I don't think so. It was not, it was controlled by the attacker. I'm not, no, I'm sure that it was not somebody controlled. For that, we have a different malwares also the attackers will use. So we have vulnerability, threat, and risk. So what is the general meaning of vulnerability?
Transaction
Weakness in the system.
from
Yeah. So vulnerability is the meaning. The simple meaning is there is a something weakness. If you say this guy have some vulnerability, means or some weakness is in terms of let's say the one guy he's a more fear to talk in the stages, stage fear. So that is a vulnerability. Okay, he's a very good student, but he's unable to speak in the stages. So that's in the vulnerability. Okay, with a couple of guys, they are not good, but they are well in good in speaking stages and all. So that is their advantage. They are taking the advantage of uh, this guy, whoever the good student, he is a good student, but he is a weakness. His weakness is stage fear. So he is taking the advantage of that, and he will be he will be gaining a more intention, more attraction, more in front of the people, in front of the management or in front of other people. So he's gaining a more, he's more, he have a more, the people will attract more for him than this guy, because he's very good in terms of speaking and in the stages. So that's the reason. And in terms of while talking with the clients, customers, so that guy was more good, but he doesn't have a less. He have a less knowledge, but he's a very good communication skills and a good client interactions, all the stuff. So he has a more gaining of name, but there is less knowledge, more knowledge, but speaking skills less. Don't have a speaking less. So that's how here he's taking advantage of his, whatever the guy who is good in terms of knowledge. He's taking advantage of that guy's stage fear, and then he's gaining a more marks or more attraction towards the people. The same way here, the vulnerability of system in the security, there is a vulnerability means there is a weakness, or there is a weakness in the design of the designing. That weakness should be anywhere in the system. Like there is a programming, there is some website is there. That website having a couple of bugs. What do you mean by the bug? There is a the badly written script. So the website is not written. The website is designed, not designed properly. Okay. What do you mean by this? Website is not designed properly means, let's say the website having a username and password. Okay, without giving a username and password, so I can change my code in the background, and I can change the code saying that, without giving a username and password, it will directly connect it to web servers. So that is the badly written script, badly written code. So that kind of that kind of vulnerabilities, that is called as a, in a security level, that is called as a vulnerability. Even couple of servers, let's say I have a one server, I have a one server. So my server, this server has having some whatever the vulnerability, we have lots of vulnerabilities, right? Every server, every system is running means, let's say if it is a Windows 7, so Windows 7 have a lot of vulnerabilities, lot of vulnerabilities. Let's say there was SMB vulnerabilities, the port level vulnerability, or application level vulnerabilities. So there is lots of vulnerabilities. So if you see Microsoft releasing the patches, so why the Microsoft is releasing the patches for every month, every month Tuesday, I think the first week or second week they used to release the patches. So what do you mean why the Microsoft is releasing the patches? So they find some vulnerabilities in the Microsoft operating systems. So maybe a client server operating system, client operating system, or server operating system. So client operating systems are like Windows 10 or like that. So server operating systems means we have a Windows server operating systems, different. There is a two versions. All servers are running with the server operating system. Now my system is the client operating system. So client operating systems are Windows 7, all the stuff. So if you see, if you go to servers, you can find out the operating system is different. That is the server operating system. Okay, there's a huge vulnerabilities. Mostly, if you see the vulnerability is in the server level, server side operating systems. They will fix the patches and they will release. They will identify the first. They will identify the vulnerability and they will fix by releasing the patch. So what do you mean by the patch? So there is a something issue in your, let's say my system, my home wall having something not some holes are there. what I'm gonna do, I have to patch. I have to go and I have to patch it. That specific holes. The same way. So otherwise, if I'm not patch that hole, so what happens? So there is a higher chance that something will come inside of my home. So if my walls have a big hole, then so if I'm not able to patch that, if I'm not able to patching in the sense, if I'm not able to close the hole, so anybody can come inside, the birds, animals, or whatever come inside. So what I have to do? I have to patch it. But patching in the sense closing. The same way Microsoft will release the is whatever the weakness in their operating systems, they will patch it every month. Okay. Now, if I'm not gonna patch, if I'm not gonna patch my operating systems, let's say I have some HTTP related vulnerability. Okay. HTTP related or SQL injection. We'll discuss later part, but it's not a right time to discuss. Okay, let's say HTTP related, or think in a way that if your username and if you're giving a username without giving a username and password, you're giving some special characteristics like dot, colon, like this, and you're giving some random password. So it might be whatever it is with the special characters you're trying to with using a special characteristics, and you are bypassing yeah, you're bypassing the specific web application username and password. Let's say HDFC. Think like a HDFC bank. So HDFC bank having the customer ID and password. So with that only you have to log in. So if it is a badly written script, there is a vulnerability in the server. There is a vulnerability in the server. So without giving a username and password, and they are using some special characteristics, or they are changing the code in the background. So let's say here you're going to one website. Okay, so I can have the view source code page. So you can see here the complete script. So complete code what you have written for the website, right? Okay, the same way here also. So I have a complete source code page. There I can see, right? I can see everything. I can changes the code here. I can do the changes in here. So what happened after changing the code? So how you are changing code in the sense, how you are changing code means, so you are changing, you are giving in a way that you bypass the username and password. So once you bypass, so that kind of vulnerabilities is there in the application. So HDFC Bank have that vulnerability. Okay, what happens if that kind of vulnerability is there? What happens? So the threat actor, that is the attacker, he will sit calmly. He will not sit calm. He will not sit calm, right? So the threat actor or attacker. So the main goal of his work is he is always trying to look for. He's always trying to look for the something he wants to do bad. So that's why he was always searching for the vulnerable servers. They're always searching for the vulnerable servers, and they find out that there's a vulnerability in the server. There is a vulnerability in the server. That what is the vulnerability? Without giving username and password, he will be able to enter into the database, right? He'll be able to enter into the database. Now, what happens if the malware enter into the database? What happens? What he will do? Let's say he enter into the HDFC database. So what he will do? He can steal the information. He can steal the credit card information, debit card information. Okay. So that is called as a risk. There is a risk present. If there is a vulnerability in the server, automatically there will be a vulnerability in the server, and there will be a attacker also there. Okay, there are also attacker also there to take the advantage of that vulnerability, to use that vulnerability. So once he use that vulnerability and take the advantage of the system, so what happened? The system now is in under risk. The server is now under risk. So what is the risk here? So the complete information is going out of your network. So going credit card, debit card information out of your network is a good or bad?
JSON nodes.
Huh? Sorry? Okay. So going out of, that's a risk. So now tell me, so what vulnerability? There is a vulnerability, threat, and risk. Let's say if your system having the vulnerability and there is no any threat, there is no any attacker to use that vulnerability or take the advantage of that. Nobody is exploiting that, or nobody is using that vulnerability in the server. So whether the risk is present or not, so there should be a risk or not. Yes or no? So server having the vulnerability, but there is no threat actor. There is no attacker to attack the vulnerability. There is no attacker, but the server is running with a vulnerability. Is there a risk or not? What's your answer? Yes or no?
Stop by time.
Somebody is speaking. I'm not able to hear. Gautam, what is your answer?
Yeah, if it is attacker is not there, means there will be no risk, right?
Yeah.
No one will
Let's
be
say-
attacking the server.
Yeah. So another case, if there is no vulnerability in the server and attacker is there, whether the risk is there or not. Whether attacker can able to successfully compromise the system if there is no vulnerability in the server. Obviously no, because no, you are breaking. Gautam, your voice is breaking.
You won't be
No, I'm not be able to.
if it is
Gautam, I'm not be able
it's
to
not
hear you.
vulnerability. It's not there. System or
Okay, I
Hello.
am not able to hear. I'm not able to hear your voice. Anyway, fine. So if there is no vulnerability, there is automatically, obviously there is no risk. So when the risk will be there, both the vulnerability and the attacker will be there. So then only we have the risk. Correct. Same thing here is explained. A vulnerability is a weakness in a device, system, application, or process that might allow an attack to take place. Threat, something that exploit the vulnerability. So he takes advantage of the vulnerability and he can exploit that vulnerability. Okay, exploit in the sense simply take the advantage. So he have the, it is also a simple script. Exploit also a simple script that will allow to take the advantage of, to use a vulnerability, to use a weakness. Okay, so attacker can use an exploit to take the advantage of the vulnerability. So and then what he will do? He will do either damage, destroy of an asset. So once he done the damage or destruction, so then there will be a, definitely there is a loss of, you'll be losing something, you'll be losing the data. That is a risk. You'll be losing the loss. There will be a loss or damage or destruction of an attack result of a threat exploiting a vulnerability. Threat is exploiting a vulnerability, and the result will be the risk. So you're losing some data. You're losing the system. You're losing your destruction of asset causes the, who causes the destruction? Threat and the vulnerability. So the result will be a risk. The same thing here is explained. So the risk is always the function of both the threat actor and the vulnerability. So the risk is always present when there is a threat and vulnerability. Other than there is no risk. The same thing is explained here. Everything. So we discussed all these things: virus, form, Trojan, rootkits, ransomware. We have to discuss. We'll discuss later. Keyloggers. Okay, the characteristics, replication mechanisms, so how does it work, everything else. Same thing, what I explained, the same thing will be there. So self-replicating, so how the bandwidth plays, everything is there. The differences. Okay. So the logic bomb, this is outdated. We are not using this. So this one also we'll discuss with a simple one example tomorrow. So these are the terminologies we'll discuss tomorrow classes. So this is simple. I guess you guys already know. So what is the legitimate software? What is the compromise? So we'll discuss this as well. These are the couple of security terminologies we have. So we will be discussing a lot. Apart from this, we will also discuss a lot of other terminologies as well. Okay, like this. Okay. So the tomorrow class is completely the terminology. This will be to focus on the terminologies and the security terminologies. So those terminologies are very important in the upcoming classes. So let's say I'm gonna use a zero day means. So you have to understand what is a 0 day, and the upcoming classes I should talk about what is the bot, what is the DDoS, what is the phishing, so what is the breach, and what is the compromise, what is the mitigation. So when I'm talking about any of the concepts, so I'm going to use this terminologies. So compromise I used to talk over containment, so exploit. Okay, like that I'm going to talk different these words. So make sure you have to understand what is these words. So otherwise it's difficult to understand the actual security concepts. So there was something attack has happened. So every attack. So these are the common terminology. These are the regular words we'll be using in the security world. So if you are not be able to familiar with these words, that will be difficult. So make sure tomorrow class, make sure you have to understand, and you have to use regularly. You have to read a couple of security articles so that you are more familiar with these words. Right.